First of all, isn't it wonderful to hear from the ICN president, our own member and past ANA president, Dr. Pam Cipriano. I have to go off script a little bit and tell you a quick story, even though I know I don't have the time. I will take advantage of my CEO role. Pam and I go way back to Virginia, and my first recollection, I knew of her long before this, but back in 2007, in April, I was the chief nursing officer of a hospital in Blacksburg, Virginia, when the Virginia Tech shooting occurred, still the largest mass shooting on any school, in any school setting in this country. And Pam at that time was the leader at VNA. And she called me personally just a day or two after the event. And I hadn't left the hospital in days, of course. And she just said, you know, on behalf of VNA and ANA, I just want to tell you what an exceptional job you and your nurses are doing, and what do you need? And really, I just needed the conversation, and it meant everything. And I've never forgotten it, and it probably had everything to do with me becoming very active in the Virginia Nurses Association and ultimately becoming the VNA president. And then when I became CEO, of course, she was the president of ANA, and she was my mentor for I took the role in May, and she was with me until December that year as a brand new CEO of association management. Trust me, very different than a hospital setting. And she really held my hand through all of that, and I'm forever indebted. So thank you, Pam. The word influence, my goodness, she picked the right one. That's all I can say. Her perspective as president of ICN, with a view into the challenges and the opportunities facing nurses around the globe, reminds us of our interconnectedness. And as nurses, we come together through ICN, as she said, globally, to support nurses in need, such as those in war-torn Ukraine. Who could imagine? For example, also through the recommendations that the ICN carried forward, as she said, with that relationship with the World Health Organization to support nursing and midwifery. Thank you for your service, Pam. So, since the beginning of this membership assembly yesterday morning, we've not only reconnected, but also heard key updates about important initiatives and engaged in sometimes robust dialogue. I think it's going to get more robust in a little while about pressing issues. As much as COVID-19 has dominated our world, there are other, unfortunately, big societal issues that impact us as nurses, as a profession, and as citizens. We are living in some really turbulent times, and as Peter Drucker said, the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence itself, but it's actually the act, is to act with yesterday's logic. So as the CEO of the ANA enterprise, I want to stress that we remain resolute and absolutely committed to our work. As the largest organization representing the largest profession in healthcare, we've been dealing with the devastating pandemic for what seems like a really long time now. We are, of course, still dealing with it, as we've said over and over today. We're in our third year. It's almost unimaginable, isn't it? And of course, the situation is not as dire or as scary as it was when COVID first took hold. We are hopeful, but we're still watchful and vigilant. We have been so inspired at the ANA headquarters by our nursing colleagues across this country and around the world, and we have stared down this crisis as nurses and responded in absolutely extraordinary ways. So to be sure, the ANA enterprise itself has been tried and tested and challenged, I believe, as never before. And I just have to pause and say thank you, staff. Thank you, staff. And certainly, don't know if you know, but I had a cancer diagnosis and took a big medical leave in the middle of COVID. So thank you, staff. We have persevered as a profession and as an organization whose duty it is to ably represent and to advance this profession and those who answer its call. So with that inspiration, I can tell you that your ANA enterprise has emerged from the worst of this pandemic stronger, more capable, and more determined than ever before. To succeed in our mission, which is to lead the profession to shape the future of nursing and healthcare. Our current strategic plan, which we initiated in 2020 and prepared before the pandemic, is anything but modest. And despite the many challenges of COVID, I can stand here and tell you that we are still executing to that plan. Our vision of a healthy world through the power of nursing is still firmly in our sights. Additionally, as you heard our treasurer share yesterday, ANA's financial position is very strong. We are well positioned to invest resources thoughtfully and strategically to further ANA's mission. So I want to focus today on 3 essential areas of that strategic plan, summed up by what we call the goals that are the 3 E's: elevate, engage, and evolve. So when it comes to elevating our profession, we already have a good start, thanks to the day-to-day work of the more than 4 million RNs in this country that we represent. And of course, this has been affirmed time and again throughout the pandemic. So how do you take a profession that has been the most trusted for 20 years and whose members are already widely regarded as heroes and make it better? That's precisely what we are doing. As one example, let me highlight the work going on at ANCC. Both in response to the pandemic and in spite of the pandemic, ANCC's programs have continued to forge ahead, particularly with the addition of remote certification testing and virtual magnet recognition appraisals. And as ANCC President Rhonda Anderson shared with us yesterday, the co-located Magnet Recognition and Pathway to Excellence conference held in Atlanta last November was a terrific success. Those of you who were there, you know that. We had a great time. It was amazing. Well exceeding all attendance and revenue goals. All of this is a strong indication that our business case for Magnet is proving out. We are now in the process of updating that business case so that we can build on the momentum of its success, not only at the enterprise, but across this country. And really, we know Magnet and Pathway are international programs, so really across the globe. Other enterprise conferences performed well throughout 2021 as well. We held more than 50 events, welcoming nearly 5,000 attendees. We also continued to grow our educational and product sales, and we delivered much needed coronavirus and well-being resources to thousands of nurses, members and non-members. And beginning in 2020, the Year of the Nurse, we expanded the traditional Nurses Week to a month-long tribute, offering a better platform to elevate and celebrate the vast contributions of the nation's largest group of healthcare professionals. So having just completed the 3rd year of recognizing May as Nurses Month, we are seeing the results in more visibility, greater engagement, and more partners embracing opportunities to leverage 31 days of recognition of nurses. So colleagues, when I stand here and report to you that interest, participation, and revenues are running high, that is a foundation to build on. And that is what will sustain this organization and enable us to increase our effectiveness and influence on behalf of America's nurses. And by the way, it does impact our membership growth. We're all invested in that. While the recent economic and external environment trends have caused growth to level off, ANA's membership today is still 10% greater than it was before the pandemic. Thank you all for that. During this difficult time through the pandemic, never doubt that the enterprise has been active, out there, and engaged. And that's my opportunity to move on to our next strategic goal, engagement. with our members and with nurses across the country, with our public officials and community stakeholders, and with the public at large to assure our professional success. We have been and still are national leaders in pushing for our policymakers and health systems and the general public to follow the science and the latest guidance of public health officials, to stay vigilant when cases were rising, to wear masks, to get vaccinated. And as you know, we stepped up our efforts to highlight the critical role of nurses, the value of nurses. Specifically, the importance of the work you are doing, the risks you are taking, and how protecting you protects patients as well. We did this through outreach to the press and direct to consumers through social media and television programming, often in collaboration, believe it or not, with the AHA and the AMA to help amplify the message. And in 2020, we launched the Pulse on the Nation's Nurses Survey series. We talked about that earlier today, where we asked nurses themselves about the impact of the pandemic and how we can strengthen our response. And we've used that data throughout the pandemic to guide our public outreach and our own policymaking at ANA. One of the things that many organizations have learned recently, with so many people having to avoid public spaces, is the value of going digital. The ANA enterprise has been moving information, resources, and activities online for many years, but the pandemic really compelled us to lean in more to virtual experiences. And as we all know, customers have pretty high expectations for their online experiences, and they can be quick to share when those experiences are good ones or if it falls short. During the pandemic, digital approaches have helped organizations to survive and thrive, and we know improving our customers' digital experience is absolutely key to our future success. So that's why we are pushing and pursuing for our customer-first, digital-first strategy. This is a major shift for the ANA enterprise. It applies to all of our areas of activity, everything we do, and is at the core of our effort to grow and strengthen our engagement across all fronts. We have put a dedicated team on this for several months, collaborating with dozens of our stakeholders and gathering information and inputs from you and from nurses in the field. All of this with the goal of improving how we engage with the nursing community, how we listen better, track the digital experience, and use this data to drive change and better meet the needs of nurses. We also have a lot of work to do in branding our organization and ensuring nurses know exactly what ANA means to them, what we can do for them, and why it's important that they are a part of this association. Our goal is to emerge with a brand strategy for ANA that is data-driven and that helps foster an emotional connection with nurses from the beginning of their journey into this profession, and that continues to deliver meaning, value, and community as they progress through their professional and personal life journey. One of the great things about nursing is that it's so dynamic, filled with opportunities to learn, grow, and take on new roles. We must be equally dynamic and able to meet nurses where they are as a key resource and partner on their journeys. So I'm eager to update you as we go along on our progress into our digital future with this essential initiative. And I want to be clear about our view that engagement is a two-way street. Throughout all the activities and initiatives we are undertaking, we have one guiding principle at the organizational level and across our leadership team, and that's to listen, and listen carefully. Maybe you've heard the saying, there's a reason God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. The success of an organization like the ANA enterprise really firmly depends on the success of our relationship with our stakeholders, like the CSNAs and our organizational affiliates and other partner organizations, and with each of you individually. We have always felt this way, but I really want to assure you that we're looking for ways that we can do this better. It's a key part of our engagement strategy. So finally, let me talk briefly about the third key strategic goal, which is for ANA to evolve. The pandemic impact has made it clear that we still have a lot of evolving to do. And recognizing that is a good thing. We're not going to let this moment pass without learning from it and redoubling our efforts to build a better future. We will do that by continuing to improve the ways we help nurses develop and fulfill their potential as leaders and innovators. So how do we build on what we've accomplished? Science, evidence, and innovation are always changing. So is practice in patient care. So how do we elevate the role of nurses in learning, leading, and generating those innovations? Innovation, reimagining, and workforce priorities. Today, we are more focused than ever on the priorities of nursing and the concerns that nurses have with their work environments. A key part of this is to harness innovation, promote the value of innovation, and put it to work for ANA. I want to talk about an exciting initiative. I think you've heard about it already in these past 2 days, but it's an initiative from their American Nurses Foundation. Something that we believe has the potential of transforming nursing practice, regulation, and education in the coming decade. It's called Reimagining Nursing. The foundation has awarded $14 million as seed money. Our director, Kate Judge, says it's going to be $100 million. And when Kate says something, you better believe it. And it's to pilot selected big idea projects that will contribute to fundamentally changing the future of nursing. Our call for proposals generated nearly 350 submissions from across the country. They included projects to develop nursing education, technology, enable nursing practice, and direct reimbursement nursing models. We're talking about how to use artificial intelligence, big data, and emerging technologies like augmented reality to further our vision and mission. And just a couple of weeks ago, we announced the 10 projects selected for funding. If you go to Nursing World Foundation website, the 10 projects are described there. They represent the boldest thinkers with the greatest potential toward encouraging others to replicate and scale up their ideas. And we intend for the Reimagining Nursing initiative to ultimately unleash the potential of a diverse, dynamic nursing workforce to propel society into a healthier future. So this is how we evolve. Not by watching on the sidelines and expecting evolution to happen, but by making it happen. So as many of you know, since I took this leadership position 4 years ago, I had my own extended encounter with our healthcare system. And during this, I had the opportunity to experience from an entirely new perspective, a personal one, how nurses not only save lives, but also how they change them. So mind you, this is not an experience that I sought out, nor would I recommend it to any of you, but it is what it is. And I'm different because of it. And it was an affirmation for me as to why we are the most trusted profession and why I was right when I answered the call to the profession many years ago and why I need to continue to give back to nursing through the organization that I love. So I've thought a lot about our duty to lift each other up and to project the power of nursing. Ernest made me do this. You know that, don't you? When a grown man cries, for God's sakes, it brings me to my knees, especially a man that stands as tall as that one. We will collaborate, we will cooperate, we will stand together, and we will speak with one voice. And the reason I stand before you today is I believe in the collective strength, intellect, and passion represented in this room to build the profession of nursing. And that's key to the success of the ANA enterprise. And that's how ANA will do right by the extraordinary nurses that we represent in their workplaces and in their lives. And in closing, and with confidence, I can say that despite the challenges of the past couple of years, the A&A enterprise continues to answer the call. We are delivering, and we will spare no effort to build a better future for our organization and for nurses everywhere. And really, in closing, I have to turn to this gentle giant behind me and thank him for his service. My goodness, he has made my life not only so much easier, but he has inspired me every day of his presidency. Thank you, Dr. Grant. I love you. The staff loves you. You're a great man. Thank you, everybody.